if someone breaks your trust, right? Because we also have a trust factor, right? As the agency. So if someone's willing to break your trust and go chase a shiny object, they should not be able to come back the same way that they left, especially if you have to fix their problems now, right? Because you've also created more value for yourself, to be fair, right? It isn't just, and if we're being twofold fair, there is a headache tax, right? Regardless of what anyone wants to tell you. I mean, no matter, if there's an industry where I can create my own price, whatever the industry is, there is a headache tax, right? You know, even when you think about it, I like to use mechanics as something comparable, right? Because price of some things is just the price, right? Like you need spark plugs. There's a variety of different ones you can buy at AutoZone, but the labor, right? The headache is really what you pay for, right? Do they need to move stuff in order to get to it? Is it right in plain sight? That's essentially the same thing, right? Because yes, you're absolutely right. I'm just changing spark plug, but I got to take the manifold out. I got to do all these different things up under the engine, under the hood that you don't know I got to do for the 20 minutes of changing spark plugs that has to happen, and put it all back, right?
You have to know what you're taking apart and how to be able to put
Right,
it back together so it works the way it's
right.
supposed to work. Yes.
Yeah, so there is a headache fee, right? So I think that there's that part. Then the other part of it is again, you've created more value for yourself, right? So sometimes letting them wander can work out. I've had to speak to go back to the questions to ask when outsourcing, right? Especially when we're talking about SEO or one thing that I tell people all the time, you don't have to go with me, but just make sure you go with somebody that makes sense, right? I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you 3 months from now and you're 7 grand in the hole, right? You done spent $7,000 somewhere and they've done nothing for you, right? Like I still want you to be able to walk away with some tangible information. So you know, when you're talking to people, depending on the type of SEO campaign that you're running, right? Like a lot of our clients are local SEO campaigns. Here in Houston, Houston is a bunch of towns into a city, right? So, as I was explaining to you, when I first got here, I lived in Houston, right? My address is Houston proper, and I was next to Johnson Space Center. I never forget this during COVID. I put in a place to go get a COVID test, and it gave me. I had a CVS across the street, but it wasn't in Houston anymore. It was not across the street's not Houston. The closest one it told me was like 8 miles and I headed north, and I'm like, I don't think so, right? Like I could have sworn I saw a sign outside across the street, but that's the importance of locality because it's not Houston anymore. Now, I would even argue 5 years ago, the internet is far smarter than it was 5 years ago, but if you don't have someone that knows how to navigate it, you will still get the same result of not showing up across the street, right? Because I am the customer in this instance. And if it's this was CVS, if CVS's corporate needs to get slapped in the head because I would have ended up going 7 miles in the other direction in order to get this test, right? Making sure that they can have an easy conversation with you about where you're located and how you can be helped, right? I would sound an air of caution of how do I want to articulate this. I came across a service professional, like a home service professional, and their CRM is a one-stop shop, right? And they offer SEO services for like $100 something a month. So I can't beat that price, right? I'll beat their service, but I can't beat their price, right? But I told them, I said, if it were me, I wouldn't want it all in one place because they just know they can put more money on their ticket. They're not giving you the best possible service, right? So that's the other thing too. Not just reporting, but when you're out looking for places, make sure that they're not one stop shopping because, as people like to say, they're leaving money on the table if they don't. Right? There's a reason why we don't do care plans anymore for clients. There's a reason why we don't do web design.
Well, now hold on for a second because you just covered two really important things, and I want to catch them as we're going through it. One, CVS right across the street. Let's break that down. There is SEO where people will say, well, you're in this borough or you're in this town, so you have to be like, here's the keywords that you need to rank for. One of the things that you do is you look beyond that and you look with common sense to be able to say, well, what's across the street? I know in New York, you could cross the street and you're in Brooklyn, and then you can cross the street and you're in Queens. I can cross the street in the Bronx and end up in Mount Vernon. People will say, well, where are you? And I can say, well, I'm in this area. I will give them a overview instead of just saying here. So I wanted to stop there for a second to be able to cover that. When you're having these conversations and people are telling you what keywords to be able to rank for, make sure that they make sense to not just what it looks like online on paper, but what it makes sense to as far as what the customer experience would be like.
Yeah, real
If you
world.
know that it was
That's
right
that real
across the
world
street,
action.
you look at these things and you're asking these questions. Most people are well, I'm not going to say most people. There are a lot of people that aren't asking those questions. They're just going through the
Yes.
motions of saying, okay, well, you're in this area, so we have to rank for this area. You want to
Hmm.
make sure that you're ranking in where people are going. So if they're going out and they could go right across the street, you want to know what's right across the street to rank there. The
Yes.
other piece you covered was just
Hmm.
making sure that you're looking at the vanity metrics, you understand what you're looking at, you understand what they're setting up, but you're also making sure that you get the best kind of results. You're not just
Yes.
saying, well, I'm going to bring you in because I want to be able to make the money. As businesses, our job is to be able to make money. So yes, there businesses have their own business coaches, a lot of them. And they will say, well, you're leaving money on the table. So I wanted people
Leave
to
money on the
understand where
table.
some of that information is coming from. It's
Yeah.
someone that might be a person removed that's telling them, well, you're leaving money on the table. And the reality is it can kind of go back to what we were saying. You're not necessarily, the way that you can fix leaving money on the table is collaborating with someone that actually knows how to do the part that you can't do. And you do a lot of being able to collaborate with people in those ways. So I just want to stop there and say, one, make sure that when you're setting these things up, you're setting it up so that it can give you the path of least resistance. You don't want
Yeah.
someone to have to figure out what you saw of going, well, why can't I just cross the street? Because in reality, as a customer, if I see that I'm going to someone, I'm like, I want to give you my money,
Hmm.
but you're sending me all these other places instead of sending me right where I want to be able to go, then now all of a sudden that's where trust starts to get lost because now I'm questioning like, why would you do that?
Hmm.
And then the other part is just understanding the business side of it. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that
No,
people
it's fine.
understood for the two different audiences. One from the
Hmm.
audience of clients, make sure that you're asking the question of, do you understand this local area? Like where you mentioned the woman says she knew Brooklyn, but the moment you
Yeah.
asked her about Brooklyn, she couldn't
Yeah.
understand the difference between
Park
because she was
Slope
a
or
transplant.
Bensonhurst. Yeah, Park Slope or
Yes.
Bensonhurst. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, no, see, I know. I'm like, so then I had to take a step back. So you live in Brooklyn. You're not from Brooklyn. Okay. Now I understand. Okay. Okay. This is why it doesn't resonate to you as we talk through RV parks in Texas, right? Which I guess is important that speaks to that same thing to be more specific, right? If Texas is too big to be the keyword, right? Unless you're offering something that is it would have to be an online product, right? In order for you to say in Texas, right? Or something that offers you a license, but you still have to be able to do it online because Texas is just too big. So I think that the other part to that too is even if you're an agency, be considerate of the clients that you service and understand that even if it's not local SEO, what are they offering? Usually agencies don't partner with other large agencies, right? Per se. On both sides, again, to kind of drive it home, you want to make sure that you're asking or the questions that you ask have to be centric to your business. Because like you said, if you have to answer my email at the end of the call, they're not prepared, right? So if we're talking about my agency and you're telling me that you offer all these white label services, I get those phone calls, emails all the time. Like you clearly don't know who you're talking to because you're telling me you offer me white label SEO services. It's the only thing I do. Why would I white label that? That doesn't make sense, right? You clearly are not. You are praying and spraying and hoping that I'm the right person today. And that's the thing
I
that
get
you
the
have to
calls
be
all the
mindful
time.
of. Yeah, that's
Mm.
the thing you got to be mindful of. You have to be able to know look at your book of business when you're talking to this professional. I don't necessarily agree with the place that you're hiring to or sourcing out to has to have industry experience, right? Because some things, their skill set in the overall industry will bode well with them being able to dig in deep, right? In whatever those industries that you specifically service. RV parks is a very niche environment, right? So because I've worked in RV parks, I can do just about anything. And I don't say that lightly. Like RV parks are weird. There's a lot of spam. The market and the way people understand the market is very different, right? And because I had to dissect those things, it helped me to do that same thing for a plumber, right? And plumbing is nowhere near as robust, right? It's, however, nuance, repiping, right? If you've never needed things repiped, I didn't, you don't even know it's a keyword. But in the plumbing industry, repiping, especially down here, because of the way we have these odd moments of cold, right? Where our pipes freeze. Repiping is a thing, right? So they want to get rid of the copper and they want to use different types of piping that has a little more elasticity. But as a plumber, you will not get a repiping job because there are repiping companies.
Okay.
But you only know
You would
that
need to know that.
yes, if you're willing to dive into the data, right? So again, I wasn't saying I talked to a plumber and his eyebrows went up when I said that to him because he's never heard a non-plumber talk about the fact that they don't win repiping jobs. And he was like, I used to do this all the time when I would talk about other marketing stuff. I wish I met you sooner, right? I wish I
Yeah.
met you 3 months earlier. And I'm like, you'll be tired of wherever you are, so I'll still be here. That's what I say now. I ain't going nowhere, so we got time. But yeah, man, I think that those are the things, right? Know what you don't have to know the industry terms. You know your industry, right? You don't have to know the marketing industry terms. You know your industry. Ask those questions about your industry, or if they can give you something comparable in another, right? Those are the things that help you be able to weed out the people who are there to get a paycheck, right? Because they got bills to pay.
Mhm.
They're not
Mhm.
there because they want to service a client.